Hello and welcome to our Bible study again of 1 Kings, and today we are in chapter 10. So let's get into it. And when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions, or she came to test him. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices, and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king which he told her not. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. So we know that Solomon's fame had spread widely over the world, and we mentioned in a previous chapter how the world was being blessed with through Solomon's wisdom, through his people. So the Queen of Sheba wanted to come and visit Solomon, and she was, according to my notes here, from an Arabian kingdom that is what we know as modern day Yemen. So came from what we now know as Yemen. And she came to test him to see if he was worth the hype. Now we know she was incredibly wealthy, as we can see here. So she came with really elaborate gifts. But Solomon's wisdom and his wealth were just way beyond anything that she could imagine. And when she heard his responses to her questions, it literally took her breath away. Oh, by the way, side note, I have this awesome resource here, All the Names Bible, which I showed on Instagram. It's so good, and I just looked up the name of Sheba just because I was curious for meanings of names, and it means fullness or completeness. So yeah, the Queen of Sheba means fullness or completeness. I don't know whether that's going to come in useful. It might, but I just want to make note of meanings of names. It's got names of people and names of places as well, and their meanings, so we might be able to delve a little bit deeper. Okay, let's keep reading. And she said to the king, "It was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thine acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words until I came, and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I have heard." Wow. So he was more than the hype. He was even better than what people were saying. Wow. Imagine being that wise. "Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighteth in thee, so set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king, to do judgment and justice." And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and spices of very great store, and precious stones. There came no more such abundance of spices as these which the Queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Wow. And the navy also of Hiram brought gold from Ophir, great plenty, almug trees and precious stones. Here we are, some more notes on Ophir, okay, just so you know I'm reading here. It means reducing to ashes, and here it's a celebrated gold region, which makes sense that they're getting all the gold from there and giving it to him. Just little notes, I might do that every now and then, just out of curiosity. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, harps and also psalteries for singers. There came no such almug trees, nor was seen unto this day. Ooh. And King Solomon gave unto the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. So Queen Sheba said she didn't even believe all the things that were being said about him, but he's the real deal. And she blessed the Lord for putting Solomon on the throne, and she just gave him so many gifts, like so much generosity. He was already crazy wealthy, but that is the Lord's blessing. He just keeps on giving. Gave him so many gifts, which this time he reciprocated properly. Unlike the previous chapter, where he gave poor Hiram a disproportionate gift in return for all his gold. I've got a little note in my book here. You know, I don't like to read too much far ahead to spoil the story, but this is interesting. How Jesus mentions the Queen of Sheba. He refers to her as the Queen of the South in Matthew. And according to the final judgment, the Queen of Sheba is going to point her finger at the Pharisees and anyone who rejected Jesus in condemnation, and they will have no excuse for rejecting the Messiah. Yeah, wow. Okay. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon 1 year was 666 talents of gold, which is about 25 tons of gold. Oh my gosh. So much gold. Well, beside that he had the merchantmen, and of the traffic of the spice merchants, and of all the kings of Arabia, and the governors of the country. And the king Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold, 600 shekels of gold went to one target, and he made 300 shields of beaten gold, 3 pounds of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with the best gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round behind, and there were stays on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the stays, and 12 lions stood there on the one side and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom. And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver, no, can't have silver. It was nothing counted of in the days of Solomon. For the king had a sea at a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Wow. So as we can see here, the wealth is absolutely mind-boggling. His wealth is astounding. Wow. And he made shields of gold. Everything was just made of gold. I wonder where all this stuff is now. Wow. So he kept shields in gold in storage. They were too nice to be used. Does anyone else have that? You got really nice stuff that's just way too nice to actually be used. It kind of just sits there. So probably do that with notebooks more than anything. So we've got, he probably uses them for special occasions and things. He's also got a massive throne. Even his cups were gold. He wouldn't even make anything out of silver because it was just nothing in comparison to all the gold he had. Can you just imagine all this? It's just mind-blowing, isn't it? None of silver. Like, even silver was worthless in comparison to all the gold he had. Okay, and let's take it to the end. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. Yeah. And all the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Oh, I like that. We have to acknowledge that it's God's wisdom that he gave him. And they brought every man his present, because he needs more presents. Vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and garments, and armour, and spices, horses, and mules, a rate year by year. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, who he bestowed in the cities for chariots, and with the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver to be in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars made he to be as the sycamore trees that are in the vale for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn, and king's merchants received linen yarn at a price. A chariot went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. And so for all the kings of the Hittites and for the kings of Syria did they bring them out by their means. So God is like super faithful to his promise, making Solomon the most famous, most wealthiest, most wise man on the earth at that time. Wow, God was truly faithful to his promise. To bless Solomon. And you can see here with his horsemen and his chariots, he made Israel military power. Israel a military power as well. Now, knowing what I know, wondering what I wonder, is this going to go to his head somewhat? We've seen this before where, even David did that. He was counting his army, going, look how powerful we are, look how many soldiers we've got. And that was a bit of a downfall for him too. We have to remember, this power, this money, this wealth, this wisdom, everything is coming from God. It's not, don't get prideful about this because it's not you, you're not that great. It's because God has blessed you that way. So I'm just going to put pride as a question mark. Is it going to come? Possibly. Oh, interesting. So I haven't studied Deuteronomy yet, but there is a note in here in my notes referring to Deuteronomy where God told Moses that when he appointed a king for his people, the king was not to acquire many horses for himself or send the people back to Egypt to acquire many horses. And he was not to acquire very large amounts of silver and gold for himself. So I'm going to make a note of Deuteronomy stating not to collect this wealth for himself. Gosh, I hope I can read that writing. I should have gone in this gap. Okay, so we can see here that he's starting to, is this wealth starting to go to his head, and he's just kind of collecting and wanting to buy more things. It's likely, isn't it? Eesh. Okay. The following chapters look reasonably length. Sorry, I'm still a bit traumatized from chapter 8 where I couldn't download the video, and it was like, I think the actual footage was about 45 minutes and I managed to cut it down. So yeah, I do look out for longer chapters because I have to prepare for them. I need to give more time. Okay, so that was another great chapter. Queen of Sheba rocks in. She's like, let's see what the hype is. And she's like, oh yeah, you are the real deal. Here, have more things, more presents. And as we know, the words of Solomon are in Proverbs. And I've highlighted so much in Proverbs because, I don't highlight a lot in the book, but Proverbs was you know, we can see Solomon's wisdom here. It's just insane. Everything. I was just like, yeah, you're so wise. Yeah, yeah, I want that, I want that, I want that. So I used a lot of my tape when I was reading Proverbs. He was wise. He really was. It came from the Lord though. It wasn't him. So yeah. Okay. I've lost my place. Where is it? Here we go. So join me tomorrow for chapter 11, God willing. I have to say God willing now because nothing is ever guaranteed. So many things kept going wrong this week when I was trying to film. So God willing, we'll be back tomorrow for chapter 11. Uh-oh. Reading the heading there, looks like it's going to be a spicy one. And not in the best way. We can see Solomon starting to kind of go downhill a bit. And it looks like it's all about to kick off tomorrow. So join me then for chapter 11, and as always, if you've got your own notes, some of you are making me think. Thank you, Paris, for your insights as well. Actually, one thing Paris noted that I liked, and she said the downfall that came probably a little bit earlier when we saw he made his house significantly bigger than the temple, which is an interesting observation. So thank you for pointing that out as well. It's true. There were hints of his character starting to crumble earlier on as well, but it looks like it's all starting to come to a head now. And we have to think about our blessings too. Like, we should never take anything that we've been given for granted either. We must always try and remain humble, because I don't want to end up like some of these people here where you read their life and you're like, you have everything. All you have to do is keep going and doing what you're doing, and you're going to have a lovely ride through this life. But people forget, and they take their eyes off the cross, and they take their eyes off God. And that's when the enemy creeps in and can rob you of your blessings because you're making poor choices. So yeah, I don't want to do that. So we have to stay in our word every day, stay focused on him every day, thank him every day for all our blessings, and we need to remain humble and remember that it's all from him. Everything we've got, it's all him. So thank you, Father. Thank you for this blessing today. Thank you for everything that you've given us. Thank you for all you're going to do for us as well. In Jesus' name. Okay, amen. See you tomorrow. Bye.